Thank you very much for your question and to being in Chinatown once again, just pointing out the respect that we have in our community for the AAPI community. I would say, just leading up to what comes next, I was very proud of the President when he made his speech about COVID. He talked, and it was initial speech. In the White House, he came forward and he included the challenge that we have addressing the AAPI hate crimes that are out there. In the very 24 hours of his inauguration, even before that speech, he tasked the Department of Justice. We didn't even have an Attorney General yet, but he tasked the Department of Justice to focus on the hate crimes in the AAPI community. And that is very, as you know, is very important. We do, again, in everything that we are doing and trying to incorporate that in. Here's the thing, and this is my experience here in San Francisco, and I feel very proud to represent a city, a district that is so blessed with a large Asian AAPI community and a very diverse AAPI community as well. On these hate crimes, and again, we passed hate crimes legislation years ago, again, largely about LGBTQ hate crimes, but it was a model for how we go forward. In order to really address the problem, you have to prove that it's a hate crime. And as you know, in some of our communities, a person my age who might be Chinese, maybe not completely, as would I not be, familiar with some of the vernacular that people use, bad language and stuff, they won't. Somebody has to write it down. Write it down. Just, you're there, you hear it, write it down so we have proof that this is a hate crime. Now, we don't want to have such a high threshold of proof, but for the moment, we do. And we just want everybody to know that all of us are in this together to fight this. It is, so we have legislation that we have passed about it. When we go back, we will have the COVID hate crimes legislation that we have. We passed the, it kind of breaks my heart to even talk about it because it's so emotional for us. We passed the Asian hate crimes bill, the Chinese hate crimes, specifically Chinese, because of what somebody over there was saying. It was Grace Meng's legislation. When I went to the floor to talk about the legislation, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle said, look at that, the Speaker of the House on the floor, wasting the time of the Congress, talking about something that doesn't mean that much to most people in our country. Imagine that they would say that. But that's what that is. Now let's hope that public sentiment has changed some of their attitudes on this. But we will have a few pieces of legislation that were on the books anyway to do the ban, the no ban, to reverse the no ban, Muslim ban, which affects some of the Asian Pacific American community, but also to continue to fight on the, and so we'll see what they say when we have the COVID, because as you know, that was kind of the hook that what's-his-name was using on this, the COVID no ban legislation. But we're not going to stop because, and I wish that you could all hear my colleagues speak about this. Doris Matsui, who was born in a camp, talk about it. To hear Grace Meng talk about it. I don't know if you saw the hearing that we had on the legislation. Members were really crying because of what the other side, with the hateful remarks that members of Congress were making about this. So we have a challenge, but we also have a vision and a plan on how to get us through this. But as a practical matter, I keep saying, if you see something like, listen to what that person has to say, because usually they'll say some nasty thing because they're doing some very nasty thing. So let's stay in touch about that because it is, it's central to who we are as a country. It's not just about the AAPI community. It's about who we are as a country, that we cannot allow this to take place. And it does, sad to say. Yes.